I'm going to begin recording. Thank you.
You'll need to push the button that says got it. So push the big blue button that says got it. That tells Zoom that you're okay with being recorded. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Randy Woodley. Randy, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and you now have the virtual talking stick. You have to unmute.
Yeah. Step number one. Thank you. I'm honored to be here, and in a lot of ways, I'm probably going to be preaching to the choir, as they say today. But I tried to think of what could I share here today that would be maybe something that you don't hear every day. And I needed to find out how did you pass my electronic of the book out to people or anything like that, or does people know anything about
group? But I don't know how many people besides me had a chance to read it.
Okay. So my wife and I are Native American. I'm a legal descendant of the United Keetoowah Band of Cherokee Indians in Oklahoma. My wife is a Eastern Shoshone tribal member from raised on the Wind River Reservation in Wyoming. And we've been in service to our own Native people for over 30 years now. We've done every sort of good thing you can think of in terms of houseless help and food closets and feeding programs and after school tutoring and all these kinds of things. And where we've ended up, we started out in the evangelical church, and where we've ended up is of course returning to our Native traditions. And we have started some years ago, but just recently, 18 months ago, moved back to Western Oregon. We're southeast of Portland, just at the beginning of the coastal mountain range foothills, and have begun again ay-luh-hay Indigenous Center for Earth Justice and ay-luh-hay Farm and Seeds. And my wife and I are co-sustainers of that. And we are building again. This is our third iteration. And we'd lost the first one due to a group of white supremacists with a 50 caliber machine gun who basically, after we built everything, chased us out of Kentucky. And we lost everything. Then we started again in a small place in Newberg, Oregon. And now we have moved to 10 acres in Yamhill, Oregon. And I'm on the land of the Kalapuyan people, particularly the Yamal and the Tuolumne bands, or the Afalante band. So right kind of where they meet together. We're basically trying to be a model, I guess you would say. We are a school, we're a community, and we practice our ceremonies here. We also have a seed company and a farm, so we're kind of a cultural center, a school, active farm, and mostly inviting people out to just come out and get in touch with the land, and to help them transfer that over to get in touch with the land that they live on and the land that is around them. Including to pay attention to who the Indigenous people are. In some cases were, but in most cases are still of that land. So that's kind of a little bit about us. I also have been a professor at Portland Seminary for the last 14 years. I am an author. I write a lot. Mostly we're just, my wife doesn't like us to say farmers anymore. She doesn't like the term farmer, but I guess earth tenders. We also do wild growns and things like this, and a lot of medicinal plants and herbs. And so we take care of a lot of the plants here. She tells me the opposite of a farmer, or the other side of a farmer, is a farmer's wife. And she's not a farmer's wife, she's a farmer. And so we're earth tenders. Yeah. So Yeah, our goal is to, our project, I guess you would say, is twofold. One is to decolonize people. That's part of everything that we do. To come against the tentacles of empire in every aspect of life, economically, socially, religiously, whatever it may be, and to challenge people to decolonize their own self and the structures around them, structures that they're a part of, and then to indigenize. And because we believe that to indigenize means to get in touch with your own indigenous roots, not to ignore the indigenous people of the land that you are on, but to take that into account, but also to get in touch with your own indigenous roots, because when you figure in time and place, we are all indigenous from somewhere. In our epigenetics, in our DNA, we're all indigenous from somewhere. And we believe that within that indigeneity, we will find the answers that we're searching for and how to live with the earth. The Western worldview is not sustainable. The Western worldview has so many faults and so many basic building blocks that have just taken us down to the path where we're at now. Climate change is a result of empire and white supremacy and hierarchy and a lot of other things, Platonic dualism and other things that have occurred because of this Western worldview. And of course, it's infected many religions as well. And so it's not going to sustain us. And so we're looking at the next 7 generations and saying, well, what will sustain us? And we believe for people to get in touch with their own indigeneity and to begin to understand the values that the earth has to teach us. And if we will pay attention to those things, we will begin to find different values and find different ways to live with the earth. So I wanted to read one short reflection out of this book. I got a book that's coming out January 4th. It's my time to plug my book. It's called Becoming Rooted. I've got lots of other books too, but this is the one I'm most proud of. But it'll be out January 4th, and actually Amazon, if you help them, they're actually shipping them now. But and it's 100 little bite-sized exercises for people. The goal here is to try and get people to begin to think differently. And my thought was, if I can get them to think more indigenous for 100 days, maybe it will change their worldviews, maybe it will change their values. And so there's a little reading. There's first a quote from famous person or famous book or something like that. I've got everything from, Mark Twain to Lao Tse to Thich Nhat Hanh to, et cetera, quoted in the beginning. And then I do a little reflection, and then there's just an action point. And I wanted to read this one to you because it has to do with the rest of what I'd like to talk about today. And so I'm going to read that, if you would. And it's the first quote is out of the book of Job, which is for Jewish folk and Christian folk, the oldest book in their scriptures. And I think that's important for a number of reasons. But in this place, Job 12:7-8, it says, just ask the animals and they will teach you. Ask the birds of the sky and they will tell you. Speak to the earth and it will instruct you. Let the fish of the sea speak to you. My ancestral DNA apparently gave me an inclination towards single-mindedness. When my mind is set on one thing, I am rarely distracted. On one occasion, after I had spoken to a crowd, a woman came up to me afterward and apologized profusely that her young child had crawled around the lectern and at my feet during the presentation. I hadn't even noticed. My wife has learned that if she doesn't pull my attention from whatever I am currently doing or even thinking about, her words simply become background noise. Edith often hears the same refrain from me. Honey, what were you saying? Nature's always speaking, but we are not often listening. I don't expect my wife to remain silent just because I'm in deep thought. It's up to me to listen to her, to acknowledge her, and to pay attention to what she's telling me. Would you ask your loved one not to make their needs known, to keep silent instead of holding a conversation? We are in a relationship with the earth and with all of Earth's creatures. We must amplify the earth's voice. We must protect it by recognizing the earth's rights. Unfortunately, we have waited until this late hour to realize that the sacredness of this relationship. Let's not delay until it's too late. Talk to the animals and then be taught by them. Talk to and listen to birds. Talk to the earth and the other parts of creation and expect to be taught from them. Listen to fish attest to the truth and recognize the hand of all creation is speaking. And then the little point of action is support or volunteer for a nonprofit that works to preserve and amplify the earth's voice. So that's kind of what the book's about. But what I wanted to talk to you about is that, part of the problem along the way with, let's just talk about Christianity because it was such a powerful force. And I assume that what it did to our native beliefs, which is to demonize them and outlaw them and to basically codify their Platonic dualism, which is Platonic dualism, just a very simple explanation if anybody needs one, is to put more, to privilege the ethereal, our thoughts, our mind, spirit, etc., over our bodies, over the material. And so that has come out in so much of indigenous people practice their ideas, they practice their thoughts, they practice this relationship with the earth. But what had happened is the Western world moved to try and get it all up here, and then it didn't matter what you actually did. And so our understandings, our beliefs, the knowledge that we have to be embodied. And so it's embodying those things that actually I think will bring people back into a relationship with the earth and with the whole community of creation, what I call the community of creation. And what we're seeing right now is the destruction or the attempted destruction of Mother Earth. The earth is going to be all right. We may not be. We may not be here to enjoy the privilege of being caretakers or co-sustainers, as I like to say. And if we follow the path of the Western worldview, that's for certain. That's not going to, we're not going to be here. But we know that in nature, we talk about, this idea of like wild animals or really any being is fight or flight. So when trapped and when cornered, it's either fight or flight. Well, the earth is sort of in that position now where the earth herself is having to fight. And so we've become, as human beings, sort of the top species, taking all the energy and all the privilege. And that's not our role. And it never has been our role up until the age of modernity. And so the earth's fighting back. And that's what we call climate change now. And that's just the way things are. That's the way things have been set in motion. And, unfortunately, when tornadoes happen, as happened in Kentucky just recently, or hurricanes and all of this kind of stuff, and we'll begin to see more and more what we call, I believe, climate refugees and climate refugees camps as we go on. That's already beginning to happen. There have been 6 native villages in Alaska that have had to be relocated, and 1 native city in Louisiana, as the person from New Orleans might know about. We're always the sort of the native people, we're the canary in the coal mine, so to speak. So the kinds of things that have happened to us and will be continuing to happen will be happening to a greater population if we don't change. And so again, that's one of the reasons that I wrote the book, was to try and get people to change. I think my own personal sort of thing about this time is that our indigenous tribes, lots of them have sort of foretold of this time. It's not, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that if you keep one practice up, it's going to affect everything else. And pretty soon you're going to be in trouble if it's a bad practice. And so they were able to foretell with their wisdom centuries ago, sort of us reaching this place. And I think we're at that place, and that we've got to make some decisions as societies now. And so what my wife and I do is we're also activists, and we don't just sort of teach these things, but we model these things, and we encourage structural change and teach things of like how to change structures as well. And so we're doing what we can for the sake of our grandchildren and the next 7 generations. You know, I think we're all indigenous from somewhere, as I said, and we all can get in touch with who we are. I call these common values, in this harmony way that I sent you the definition of, which is the way that we believe life was to be lived, that there should be peace, that the earth should be being treated well and producing in abundance, that no one should be going hungry, all those kinds of things. That's our harmony way. And we believe that all indigenous peoples were given that harmony way. And might have been called different things. Western quote unquote civilization may have condemned those things in the past. I know Nordic beliefs and Celtic beliefs and our native beliefs and all kinds of others have been condemned by a Western worldview. But now that day has run out, and we're faced with some choices, some hard choices. And these have to be more than just personal choices. We have to get involved politically as well in order to make these choices. And for us, the first thing that we believe the first thing that needs to be done is that the earth needs to be given human rights. And as you know, probably a number of places that's happening. Some cities that's beginning to happen in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Is that Malibu? No, one of the California beach towns. I forget the name. There's a number of other smaller ones, but and of course Bolivia and Ecuador and other things. And yes,
Santa
it's
Cruz, probably.
maybe hard sometimes. Pardon?
Marcus said Santa Cruz, and just for timekeeping.
Santa Cruz, thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
Santa Cruz.
About 3 more minutes.
Okay, yeah, I'm just wrapping up anyway.
And
So,
you're doing great, Randy, you're doing great.
So those places, yeah, it's a whole nother thing about like, well, how do we enforce that? But at least if we can create earth rights on the books, we have something to go on, because everything in this country runs by the law, or is at least supposed to. So yeah, so that's, I think, the fastest way. I mean, we've given corporation human rights, and corporations set on the earth, but the very earth that they set on doesn't have human rights. So I think that's the next step in our structural changes that we need to make. And I'm done. And if people have questions, I'm open.
Now,
So.
people are welcome to stick around. If Alex, can you stick around, because you're the host?
I can. We're using a free Zoom line, so it will expire in 8 minutes, but I'm happy
we
to
have
stay for
8
those
more
8
minutes,
minutes for
but yeah.
Q&A.
Yeah, so if people want to stick around for 8 minutes, or you're welcome to leave at 5:30. First of all, I really want to thank Randy for sharing his thoughts and coming with us today. And if somebody has a burning question, you are welcome to stick around for 8 minutes and ask. And if not, I'm going to encourage people to think for the action that one of the things we had discussed as a group is perhaps doing an action. And I think it might be nice to do that first action that Randy was saying. A lot of us already do things with animals or for the earth, but it might be nice to just do something a little extra during the next month if you can, and then report next time. The idea is to do something, in this case, with animals, and to report really briefly next time what you did, and to also do something on a spiritual view. So that might be from your own practice, like mine as a Wiccan, or if you're an atheist, a focused, or whatever is appropriate for your worldview. So just reminding people that that's something we encourage people to do. And if people have questions, I would want to give them a chance to do so.
This is Linda. I just wanted to say that one of my actions is I just bought Randy's book.
That's wonderful. I accidentally bought 2 and I'm still keeping the second.
Great action.
It's a great holiday gift if you do gifting.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we just, are all absorbing, what we've heard today. And I want to thank everybody for coming to the Earth-Based Spiritual Action Team. We meet once a month. We keep it down to a half an hour. And I'm also looking for people who want, if you would like to speak, yes, you or somebody you know can present your thoughts on an action, on your worldview, and a specific action that the group can do reasonably within a month. So if you're interested in that, feel free to reach back either through Earth-Based Spiritual Action Team, or I'm going to put my email, if I can type today. Old fingers. There we go. So if you know somebody, or if you would like to do a speech if you would like to present to the group, please feel free to email me personally, or you can communicate through the Earth-Based Spiritual Action Team through Citizen Climate Lobby. And I do hope everybody has an amazing winter time and just enjoy it. And thanks so much again, Randy. I hope soon to be able to come out and just see your place again. It was awesome.
Yeah. We'll get together and we'll probably see each other at some kind of interfaith thing. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Very
Thank
grateful
you,
for the talk,
Randy.
Randy. Thank you
Really
so much.
inspiring and very appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was not
Thank you.
very
I
nice.
just want to say it's pouring rain here and